All right, we are live on Facebook, so feel free to take a moment and share this out if you would like to on your own Facebook page as my phone rings. So we'll turn that off too. So Tina, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So we're here to talk about grief, and obviously there's lots of different ways we can approach um, grief. But today I really just wanted to almost talk about our stories and our coping strategies as well. Maybe some things that we've used in the past that worked or didn't work, or as well, maybe some experiences with clients too, because you're also in the coaching and healing world. So, what I'm going to do is, do you need a few minutes there to share that out, or are you
I
good?
shared it.
Okay, perfect. And I'm actually gonna do the same here. Um, and so why don't we actually get you to introduce yourself first, since I'm slow in general.
I'm tagging at followers.
Okay, perfect.
So my name is Tina Saunier, and I live in Nova Scotia, Canada. I have four beautiful daughters and a bonus daughter. A little bit about me is I'm an intuitive energy healer, and it's a gift that I was actually born with. I believe actually everybody is born with their gifts. I was a nurse for 24 years, and during those 24 years, I could tell people how to heal themselves without using medication, without using the traditional tools. And more, my spirit was saying, my soul was saying, like, you need to get out there. You need to, like, you're putting yourself in a box here. So after I couldn't take it any longer, I just quit my job with no plan. So basically, I took a few courses like Reiki and Theta Healing and what other courses? I don't know, probably took 10 million courses. And I just decided that I was going to go on my own. So I opened up a little studio and worked out of there for a while. That lasted a few years. And then a few years ago, I stumbled upon, what would you say? It was kind of a big heartache. So here's the grief coming in. So 2 years ago, I had a little bit of an incident that caused me to shut everything down, basically shut my life down. And it took me 2 years and a lot of healing to get me to where I am today. So Robin and I will talk to you about our little adventures or big adventures with grief.
Perfect. Love it. Thank you. I feel like you're such a leader. I'm like, you just take this podcast away.
Thanks.
And I feel like we connected for a reason for sure. I was watching one of your lives on Facebook, so everybody should check out Tina's lives because she's just starting to do, how many did you say? You're doing like a everyday
I,
live?
I'm 2 weeks into 365,
Okay.
66.
That's amazing. So everybody should definitely listen in. She's super knowledgeable. But I believe the reason why we got connected, uh, were you not going to start a podcast, or am I just feeling that?
Yes, no, I'm starting.
Okay.
I've just not figured out how.
Okay, perfect. So hopefully this will be a learning experience for you because I am literally just starting out as well. I'm actually in the process of writing a book. It's about 95% finished, started it a really long time ago, called How to Find Your Purpose. And I had a reading recently where she said, you need to get together with other writers and get on their stuff, get them on your stuff, and talk to those people. So I believe you also wrote a book.
I did. I wrote a journal actually. It came out, oh my goodness, it must be a couple years now. It's available on Amazon. I
Okay.
can post a link under this on my Facebook page.
Okay, perfect. And then this journal, is this also somewhat connected to grief? Because I feel like it might be.
It is because to what I wrote it about is 31 days to loving your life. And those tips and tricks in there, it's 31 days of basically homework. And they'll flip you, I want to say on your ass, because they're simple things that can actually change your life so much, but yet they're all simple. And I wrote that book in like 4 hours.
That's amazing. So it was just kind of like spirit led.
It was totally spirit led. I sat on the couch. I'm like, I need to write this. And people, my family were coming to me, and I was like, I can't talk right now. I can't talk right now. And then the book sat in my desk for like 3 years, maybe. And then it hit me on actually, I think the anniversary is coming up. It hit me, and I'm like, I need to learn how to publish this thing. So it's self-published, which is something that if you feel called to, do it. If you don't, don't. I learned so much. My husband helped a lot because I say he's more techie, yet I think we balance each other out.
Mhm.
And like it was just so amazing. I want to do more actually.
Awesome. So we'll shift back over to grief,
Yes.
but everybody should also check that out because obviously self-love is a huge component to
Mhm.
the grief process because it takes time to grieve, right? And
It
so
does.
maybe
Yeah.
taking time isn't a part of your agenda for you. Maybe you're the type of person that takes time for work or you take time for caregiving and you've lost yourself along the way. And so sometimes I feel like when there's these bigger life moments or experiences where we're forced to, it can really shift how we look at ourselves, how we treat ourselves, where we've been, where we're going. And it seems to really be like life altering moments for some people where they can fall into a depression or they can use that to, uplift them and support more people when they're going through things and whatnot. So I'm going to introduce myself. So my name is Robin Horsman. My old business was called Robin's Healing as well. So I was Robin Jardine. So recently got married, switched over to Robin Horseman, became Horseman Readings, and started to actually today is my first day starting as advertising as a psychic medium, which is also an amazing little breakthrough. I had my friend's husband pass away of cancer early fall, late summer, sort of this year. I guess 2023. And after he passed away, of course, me being me, feeling into, his spirit and that sort of thing, I just kind of got the message like, you need to do bigger things. And so I decided to take from that loss like using his spirit being around me as that kind of like motivation or inspiration to follow your dreams. And there was a specific song that I felt called to, and I just listened to it over and over and over. And I'll actually link that in the comments too, because maybe someone else will find that inspiring if they're going through some type of grief. But it was just all about basically inspiration and to not stop living. And so what's interesting is I used today, which is my grandfather's birthday, who's also passed like to do the podcast, right? To start my mediumship. So no coincidence. So basically I've shifted over into someone different as a result of my loss and grief. And so I'm just starting this podcast out. So I'm hoping that it will become something that people can rely on for an additional support system, whether it's through grief or just learning how to develop more self-love as you were sharing, more life skills essentially, because we're going through a really dark, heavy time. And we're going through a lot of light too, but we're also going through a lot of dark. And so that's kind of what I want to emphasize on today is just like it's okay to admit if you're going through any type of depression or divorce or disease, because we kind of, as a society right now, are going through all of that.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
my services are basically all in the healing arts. I offer readings now, but I also put a combination of healing, and my background is in psychology. So I've always wanted to help people. I just wasn't sure how, and so I'm still navigating what that looks like and feels like for me, but I'm definitely using my spiritual and my mediumship to help me lead others into their own kind of dreams and successes.
I love that.
Yeah, so basically a couple little steps just to share, like a couple steps that I used in my grief process. I kind of already shared one, right? To just kind of take of the loss and turn it into a positive, essentially, right?
Yes. Yes.
But then, so that's easier said than done, right? Because we're not all there either to do that. And that comes in stages too. So obviously I feel like taking care of yourself as you were sharing, right?
Yes.
And holding space for yourself. If you're not a person to take care of yourself first, I think that that's probably the biggest thing is recognizing that it's okay to be selfish when you are going through any type of down, like any type of down, whether it's grief or sadness or, when we hit that kind of, I call it almost like a rock bottom moment where we're just like, shit, I need to change my life. My life's not okay. Something really big is happening that's more important than work or all these little things that I think are important. So for myself, I think in my grief process, I've learned that I'm important. And so as some of the people in my life were not supportive during my grief process, like as I've had to grieve, it kind of put things into perspective of like, you know what, in the end, you're alone.
Yes.
And that sounds even more
Yes.
depressing. That is not inspiring. But the loss can show you who's boss, I guess. And it's you. You're the leader of your own life. And so, yes, we need resources and support systems, but we also need to get ourselves out of that darkness too. And I think it just kind of shows us that, if you lose a husband or if you lose a wife, like you're alone in your marriage.
Hmm.
So to appreciate who you have and what you have, but also to appreciate yourself. And so I think that's kind of been the biggest learning curve for me is not like blaming other people, just looking at myself in the mirror a bit more. And I just started doing mirror work. Do you know what that is?
Yes, I do.
Okay, yeah. So just recognizing that I guess we all have darkness and light and just seeing um yeah, like different aspects, more reflection, I guess, is what I'm experiencing of like the
Hmm.
going within aspect. I
Yeah.
hear a lot of people saying that they go externally, which I think is good too, but it's also recognizing that there's like a light within you that you also need to shift to. It's like how we handle these circumstances and situations. And so, what is your experience like with that, what I'm saying, or your thoughts, and what is a great timeline like for healing?
I don't think there's a timeline for healing. I think it's each person is different. I was talking to somebody earlier, and this is one thing that I did is I sat with my feelings because we're not taught to sit with our feelings and we're not taught that it's okay to grieve. So we're taught basically, okay, move on, move on. And it's okay to just sit. If you're sad, it's perfectly okay to cry
Mhm.
and be with that sadness. I mean, yes, like you said, like don't sit in it for years,
Right.
but feel it, right?
Yeah, and I have another question for you. When you say don't
Yes.
sit in it for years, because some people will feel like I'm never gonna be the same, or I'm never
Yes.
gonna get over this, and I'll
Mhm.
never be okay.
Mhm.
Like I will be this way for the rest of my life now. It's like, what's your thought or opinion on that when you like, because you're like, obviously don't sit in it for years, but like, what do you say to the people that are still sitting in it for years?
Um, well, I work with a lot of people that are in their victim.
Mhm.
So basically, this is what it is. They are saying that they're putting basically the blame on the person that passed away.
Mhm.
Like, you made me feel this way. You made me feel sad. You're making me feel sad without taking accountability for actually, do you want to be happy? How can you be happy? How can you make yourself happy? It is okay to grieve, yet, like I said, don't sit in it forever because you're blaming the other person for you sitting in the mud, basically.
Mhm. Absolutely. So have you ever been through a time in your life where you felt like you sat in your shit, I guess shit's the word of the
Yes.
day,
Oh, yeah.
too long? And is this coming from experience or is
Oh
this
God,
coming from
yes.
like a
I
book?
have, like, over and over. My first marriage, I blamed everything on him until, like, it took, oh my goodness, was it 8 years? Uh, 8 years before somebody gave me a different perspective. And I just sat there with my mouth open. And I was like, oh my God, I've been blaming him all this time. And I wasn't taking personal responsibility whatsoever.
Yep.
So sometimes that's all it takes is one person saying, what if it was this way instead of the way that you're saying?
Yeah.
Like, I still laugh today because like, whew.
So I've got a couple of things coming up. I kind of want to touch on anger, like
Hmm,
how anger comes, like I'd say
yes,
90% of the time. Do you agree that
yes,
like 90 or
yes.
that like yeah. So what's your experience with anger after
Actually, I
grief?
am super great at being angry because anger is just stuffed grief. And when I learned this, I was like, oh man, no wonder I'm this angry because I have all this pent up grief that I have no idea what it is. So, actually, I help people through this. I do it's like a sacred anger session. It works better face to face than it does over the computer, I find.
Yeah.
But I don't know, to each their own, I guess. But where am I going with this? So a lot of, yes, most clients come to me and myself. I have been through this. I was angry and angry and angry, and I didn't know why. So clients come to me and they're angry and they don't know why. It's because we've not been told that it's okay to be angry or it's not okay to grieve, and that we should just suck it up and move on. Anger is one of those things that is easy for us to express, yet it is frowned upon. And it is totally normal. Like, I love anger. I absolutely love anger because I love what comes out on the other side.
Yeah. We just had somebody popping on here on Facebook just watching us live. So I am going to encourage people, even if you're watching the replay, please, please, please share in the comments whatever you feel comfortable to share, whether it's if you lost someone you love and if do you agree or disagree with this, because this is kind of a heated, as we're talking about anger, like a heated topic. Like there might be people who just lost someone that they're like, screw you for saying like it doesn't take years to heal
Right,
or
right.
it or it's been 8 years and I've haven't left the house or whatever. I'm
Mhm.
laughing, not because it's funny, just because everybody has a different mindset with grief. And when you ask people about grief, everybody will answer that the same way. Well, everybody grieves differently. Like at least we've been taught that there's no right or wrong with this. It's an art, so we can't judge people for whatever it is that they're doing because they're really just surviving, right? And I work with a lot of clients who are not in thriving mode, they're in survival mode. And so do you relate to that of like grief being survival mode? Are you there? Dina, did we lose you? Let's see what happened here.
Hi.
Hi,
It
what happened?
was a heated topic.
You just decided to run away?
No, you were talking and all of a sudden, boom, gone. You said it's a heated topic, and then we broke the internet.
Okay, well, regardless, let's keep going. So what part did you, so just of the it anger being a heated topic and then it all went
Yes,
blank?
I heard that, and then you said if there's somebody on here that um has something to say, they think that it's going to take years to.
Right. Okay. Well, hopefully it only blanked out for you.
Yes,
But I was sharing that clients of mine, what I'm noticing is they're not in thriving mode, they're in survival mode. And so I
yes,
was just asking you, like, because I was saying we all grieve differently, and everybody kind of, if you ask them about grief, that they'll all say that, like, well, everybody grieves differently, like, at least we're taught that. But like when we're in survival mode, like everybody just copes and deals differently. So I was just asking you, like, if you feel the same way, if when people are grieving, like they're just kind of having a hard time navigating how to get out of the survival.
yeah, because we're not taught how to grieve, like I said previously. So we feel like we don't know what the next step is. So am I supposed to feel how I'm feeling? And a lot of people become numb and never grieve. They don't, they just stay in that survival mode for years and years and years.
Yeah. And I feel like that's where the victim stuff that you were discussing, for me personally, my experiences is where people get stuck. It's more just like they don't know when it's time to move on
Right. Yeah.
because sometimes people feel guilty
Yes.
that we're moving on.
Right.
Now we it's like we lost our father, but we don't want to forget our father. And
Right.
so if we just hang on to that grief and loss, and then we'll still have a part of him or a piece of him. So do you agree with that?
I agree that's how people feel. Yes.
Yeah, and so especially I think about the loss of a child as well, right? How
Hmm.
we hear a lot about people's bedrooms staying the same way.
Yes.
And so what are your thoughts on that about like is it healthy to keep all the clothes and the bedroom the same way? It doesn't have to be a child, but
I don't necessarily think it's healthy. I think every person is different.
hmm
Yet I feel that once you understand where people go when they die,
hmm
that it would change everything for them. That's my belief.
yeah, to have like if you had more some type of faith or belief that there was what life after death, or
Yeah,
is it that they go
that
into
they
spirit
never
realm?
go away. Like the
hmm
spirit doesn't go away.
Right. Yeah, so it's like they're hanging on to memories
Hmm.
that they can still keep to have them in their hearts or still in their life instead of what accepting that they're gone.
Well, it's accepting that the physical is gone, but
Right.
knowing that the spirit is not.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's where things get complicated, right? The
Yes.
second you add religion into
Yes.
it, and that's where people get kind of pissy. Because
Hmm. Yes.
they're like, how do you know?
Yes.
Because we don't know, you know? And I think sometimes we throw words around because of our own beliefs, but it seems like such a sensitive topic when you talk
Hmm.
about death and loss because, you know, I watched a movie on Netflix the other night called, I think it was like Miracles from Heaven or something like that, where this family was very religious. They went to church and they were very close to everybody in the community. And then the 10-year-old daughter ends up having like stomach issues that that basically she's dying from. And a couple ladies at the church said something to her, like, obviously, you guys haven't been doing something right in your life because you're being, punished because your daughter's sick. And she's like, F you. I'm never coming back to this church. And, these people are not supportive. And, I don't even know if I believe in God anymore because maybe they're right, like just so much confusion around her faith. And anyway, she wants to fight for her daughter to get better. And so she ends up finding help in in the States somewhere. And basically the little girl gets treatments. They said there's nothing we can do for her. She's dying. It's it. Like logical, right? Not believing in miracles or
Hmm.
the faith, just she's dying, here are the facts. And so I'm a big believer too when we get those diagnoses, whatever that word is, um, that it's important to obviously keep your science, keep your facts, but also have some type of faith and hope and belief too, But regardless, what ended up happening was this little girl fell inside of a tree, like through in a tree well,
Oh, I
30
think
feet,
I watched
30
that.
feet up in the air.
Hmm.
She should have basically been dead or, brain injury. And she had bruises on her. She said she went to heaven and
Right.
all of a sudden her stomach was perfect. And she
Hmm.
said she went up to the spirit world, had a conversation. God said she'd be healed when she came back down for sure. Because she said, I'm not coming back otherwise.
Right.
And her parents said, you better be careful, who you tell this story to. And so basically, she ended up going back to church and getting the little girl to tell the story with the church community. And there was someone that said, are you sure you're not doing this for publicity? And, a lot of
Right.
people will make up stories. How sick was she before? So, again, questioning that faith, questioning her, making her feel badly about it. So, I don't know why, but it felt like important to share that story because, when people die, it can actually make us question if there is a God.
Yes.
So, have you had any of those weird moments for yourself or experiences with
Oh,
other
I
people?
definitely did. When my grandmother passed away, I tried to revive her. Um, but of course that didn't work. She was very sick. And I questioned everything. I was like, if there is a God, why did you let her die and all that fun stuff?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what led me to go down this road and search within myself and out there, what is there and what do I believe in? What do I want to believe in?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that's a big part. Like, what do you want to believe in?
Yeah.
And are you open to listening to what other people have to say? You don't have to accept it as your own.
Yeah.
What do you want to believe in? Do you want to believe that there is life after death? Do you want to believe, that we just die and it's done or
Yeah.
what?
And do you believe that there is life after death? I know you said like spirit
Yeah.
world, but like, do you mind sharing your beliefs or is that something you feel comfortable doing?
No, I think everybody knows what my beliefs are.
Okay.
I do believe that there is life after death. I don't believe that we ever die. And I do believe in reincarnation. Even, I mean, people, it's up to you what you want to believe in. But that's what I believe in.
Hmm. Okay. And I'm just curious because I really did not grow up religious. And so this is kind of a new experience for me too, to ask more questions. I kind of learned through through other people's experiences.
I was raised
Um,
religious,
okay. So what was your religion?
Catholic.
Okay. So that was pretty like embedded in you?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
And I remember being in church and questioning, like in my head, because I wasn't allowed to talk. But me and my grandmother used to make fun of everybody, which is not nice. But we would laugh and we were told to basically shut up. Uh,
I like that.
yeah.
Okay. So did you have a positive church experience?
I don't I think it propelled me to learn more because I'm that type of person that wants to learn more about everything. And why do you say that this works this way and yet somebody else is saying that it works this way?
Hmm.
So I'm going to do my research and find out for myself what I want to believe in.
Right.
And
And
even if in 2 months from now, 2 years from now, that my views change, so what? My views change, right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I think sometimes we feel like when we put something out there into the world that it's like we're going to be held accountable for that
Hmm.
being now it, when I think that that's part of why we're here. That's my belief, is that we're here to kind of sort out our shit.
Right.
So
Right.
we're going to make mistakes. And I think forgiveness is one of the most powerful tools I've been learning in the last 4 to 7 months. And I'm not sure if it's because of the grief I've been going through. I had a friend that died over the holidays. Um, Kind of like, is it more of a, like a tragic death? And then again, I was mentioning my friend's husband. So one was more peaceful and one was more tragic. And I almost feel like I started working on forgiveness to help me through that without knowing that. It just kind of kept popping up in my head. Forgiveness work, forgiveness work.
Hmm.
And sometimes I think it's to help my clients only to realize, oh no, nope, this is for me. And so when my friend died over the holidays, I one of the things that I chose to do to take a positive from a negative was I'm gonna let this stuff go. The stuff I thought was big or important, or this person did this to that
Hmm.
person, and like this person is not talking to that person, and I'm gonna stay angry at this person. I'm not gonna accept that because I have boundaries and all of that stuff. And it's like I think we're kind of here to learn to let go of control and let go of the ego and, be in that heart space and focus on love. And I think that's a big challenge for people to do. So I find for some reason, speaking of anger and grief, I think forgiveness really plays a big role. So if it's forgiving God, forgiving people like for choices that they made before that person died, right? If you didn't say
Yes.
goodbye, so and so didn't do their will or whatever, you know?
Yeah, I agree.
So do you
Forgiveness
find?
of, yeah, like forgiveness of, like, I want to say stupid things, but in the end, is it really that big? Like when my grandmother died, I was blaming myself for not visiting enough. And I was like, okay, I think you need to forgive yourself. Like, there's reasons why you didn't. And when she passed away, I had the conversation with her. Um, and she understood when she passed away. When she was here, she understood differently.
Mm, absolutely. So it kind of brings up peace, right?
Yes.
How do we find peace in our hearts after we've
Mhm.
gone through a loss? Because this isn't just about death. This is mourning the old version of us. This is someone we're divorcing, right? Sometimes we don't even like these people that we're grieving from.
Yeah, it's true.
So how do you find in your experience peace in your heart after severe loss?
I like to sit there, go to the beach, of course. I go to the beach and I sit there and I look at everything. Like, I look at all the good and all the bad. I just look at everything. And is there anything that I would have changed? Okay, and why?
Hmm.
And then I make peace with that, knowing that whatever happened happened. If I could have, I would have, and it didn't.
Hmm.
So can I find peace in that?
Like that. So asking yourself some deeper questions.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, I like that. So would you say that some people using the strategy could potentially be hard on themselves if they're people who don't have those tools?
Yes. I'm particularly hard on myself.
Okay.
And I found this to be one of the best ways for me
Mhm.
because in that situation, how hard can you be on yourself? You
Right.
can be really, really hard on yourself.
Yeah. So forgiveness.
Yes,
Hmm.
again.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's like, I think you're really touching on sit with yourself and tell yourself it's okay.
Yes, exactly. It is okay to be exactly where you're at. The dogs are going to bark.
That's okay. Let them bark.
Okay.
If you need to deal with them, go deal with them. It's no problem.
No, my daughter just got home, so.
And I find the people when you're grieving, because you're talking about the ocean, Mother Nature, she
Mm,
heals and
yes.
nurtures. Um, do you find the environments that you're in, obviously, you're talking about nature, your favorite piece of nature, but like what types of people, I was we're already touching on this, right? Like people who are triggering you, caught up in their own shit, like, don't care. Um, what types of people do you surround yourself with to find that peace and healing?
I avoid people.
All of them.
I find avoidance for me is like, because I find that when I'm in that shit, that I have enough problems dealing with my own stuff without having somebody else there.
Right.
So I like to go to the beach and then do whatever, whether it's scream, cry, or laugh, whatever. I talk to myself, I do that. Or listen to a meditation while I'm there. And then afterwards, I can be okay. I can be surrounded by other people. But I would rather be surrounded by people that are not like Debbie Downers, that are going to accept me the way that I am and lift me up if I so need it.
Right. And so I also find sometimes misery loves company, right? So
Yes. Oh God, yeah.
here you are, say your best friend dies
Yes.
and you have a best friend group,
Yeah.
right? So it's like, okay, well, do we support all of the friends and
Mhm.
everybody's low? Do we get around happy people? Like, what are we supposed to do? Are we supposed to just pull away during a time where everybody needs each other? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it all depends on the person, the individual person. I know that um, someone close to me had a group of friends, and one of their friends passed away, and I just picked her up, told her to get in my vehicle, brought her to the beach, and I said, "Do your thing." That's like minimal talk. And they did their thing. I did my thing. They came back when they were ready, and I dropped them back off. And they said, "How did you know what I needed?" I said, "I just knew what you needed." And afterwards, they were able to go see their other friends. But before that, they were closing themselves off.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they just needed someone to see them, someone to
Right.
see that they were grieving and not make it right or wrong.
I like that. Yeah, except you're touching on a lot of like self-acceptance about like going to the beach,
Mhm.
but then also accepting other people for where they're at too. So
Yes.
accepting ourselves for where we are and accepting other people for where they are instead
Mhm.
of trying to change them. Because you know
Yes.
how pissy we get when somebody's saying, "Oh, you've got to let it go. You've got to move on." Like this, they're not coming back. I'm sure, blah, 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 whatever advice you're giving you at the
Oh, I
time.
was told not to be so angry. I'm like, seriously? You're telling me not to be so angry? Fuck you.
Yeah, I think it definitely there's more triggers because we're so emotionally drained.
Yes. Yeah.
So, I mean, what do you think too about like, because I also have an HR background. A lot of people don't know that, but like the time that we get off, right? Like there are bereavement after a death in the family.
It's definitely not enough.
No, it's
It is
not.
definitely not enough. And I was thinking about that the other day because somebody passed away and they had to go to work. Like their father passed away, they had to go to work like within a week or something stupid. It was like 3, 4 days or something. And I'm like, seriously? Are you serious? They have to go back to work just having buried their father.
Yeah.
Like I could not wrap my head around it.
Yeah, or you're gonna lose your job, basically.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and that's where I know there's other options for certain workplaces of like
Mhm.
stress leave and this and that. But you know what? There's also a stereotype for people taking stress leave.
Oh God, yes. I take
And
stress leave.
yeah. And so what was that? Did you feel guilty? Did you feel badly about yourself? Did people judge you? Like just because these are kind of social things that a lot of people will do to other people.
I took a stress leave, and this is the year that I quit.
Hmm.
I took a stress leave, and my when I went back, my doctor said that I was fine to go to work, and I said, no, I'm not. So she made me go back, and then I quit because I couldn't handle it. I couldn't take it anymore. So when I was on stress leave, um, see the okay, so that was the last time I was on stress leave. I had 4 kids under the age of 6. So it's I was not meant to go back to work. I could not function. I couldn't. But the first time I took stress leave, um at that time, my doctor, a different doctor, told me that I was stressed, and I was like, I don't think so." I was only 21 years old, right?
Hmm.
So you think you can handle it and anything and everything. And I hit my breaking point, and when I went to see him, he said, "I knew you would come to see me." So yeah, that was kind of fun. But
Yeah,
at that time, I was expected to find another job or do something else in the meantime. It was not about me and my self-care because nobody understood. Because I mean, that was how many years ago? It's like 30 years ago,
right.
right? So there was no such thing. Like, what do you mean you're stressed out from working?
Yeah.
Well, I work in a nursing home and 5 people died this week. Thank you.
Yes. And that's it. So like the
Yeah.
support systems in the workplace,
Yeah.
right?
There was none. There was none. I was 21 years old
Yeah.
and I had been there for 5 years already.
Yeah, that's crazy. So obviously we probably have come further along, but there's still more work to do. And that's why I'm
Hmm.
glad that we're able to talk about these things because Belle's Let's Talk is this Wednesday, right? Getting into the mindset of talking about not being okay.
Hmm.
It's even making me feel sad talking about I don't know, talking about like mental health and all this stuff, and that we're still in a time in our life where we can't talk about things.
Right.
You
Right.
know,
It's
like
true though.
it's crazy. And so I feel so blessed as a female. Um, but even though we have to go through, I feel like more like
Yes.
we we're more emotional naturally and all of that. But I kind of feel like there's a stereotype with men too, where like, oh, there's a woman crying, you know, or oh, there's a female that needs to talk about her problems.
Yeah,
But when you have a man that needs to talk about it or cry about it, there's a lot of negativity towards that too.
there is.
Hmm. So maybe some of these principles that these workplaces have are almost directed towards suck it up, go back to work, get your paycheck, take care of your family.
Mhm.
You know? Do
Yeah,
you agree with some of that?
I do.
Hmm. So it's like, at what point are they going to change that? Like, actually, you know what? If you need a month, take a month. Um,
Yeah,
Obviously it's hard to function as a corporation without you, but there are additional support systems further for you after that month if you need it. But if you want to come back, you have your job after a week, Like it's no different than after you had a child way back when. I know my aunt had a child when she was going to university. And this was way back when. And they told her she'd be kicked out of school if she didn't, come back basically right away after she had
I
her
know.
baby.
Yeah,
And that was so traumatizing for the baby,
of
for her,
course.
and all that. So it's very business oriented versus, oh my God, like we're people that are going through things, and no wonder why people are so numb
Mhm.
and pushing it all down. Because you're taught to push it down at work
Right.
in a way, separate your work from your personal.
Yeah, to please other people.
Yeah. So, I mean, I believe that it's good to maintain professionalism, if you're not okay, don't come to work, but also make it okay for somebody not to come to work.
Right.
Because I'm seeing a lot of sad people in the world right now just
Mhm.
working at the grocery store, and they're young, like you
Oh
said,
yeah. Oh
21
yeah.
going through this. Well, there are lots of people that are that age probably going through a lot of what you used to go through.
Hmm.
So, do
I
you
agree.
think that it's more young people right now going through, struggling more with this grief, or is it the elderly because of all their losses, or is it everybody?
I feel everybody, although I find that some of the younger people, even though they have more resources than we did, seem to be in a worse place than we were.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Um, I was actually just talking to a couple elderly women before I came on here, and I interviewed them,
Hmm.
which is funny because I knew it would almost make them feel a little uncomfortable asking them, but I also knew that their ideas were important because I was able to get
Yes.
access to someone who was close to me, both going through grief because everybody's pretty much going through grief if they're alive at that age. So one said their grief experience was they pulled inward and talked to their husband that passed away as if he were still there
Okay.
and asked him for guidance when she needed it, and also to keep his energy close to her
I
because she
love
goes
that.
to church and she believes in that. And she
Hmm.
said she talked to her cat and got comfort from her animal. And she really just wanted to heal with him and herself in her home. And she
Oh.
said she also uses her minister, like via phone or lunch or whatever it is, to have him almost as like a grief counselor.
Hmm.
Because that's for her, she has that religion and she doesn't have a lot of family, so that's where she went to. And then
Hmm.
I asked this other person who's also been going through their own sickness, which they're grieving their own illness, as well as a lot of sick people around and loss. And she said, "Oh, I'm like the opposite. I go towards my family and my friends and whoever's accessible via like phone
Okay.
and conversation." And I said, "Okay, but what if you don't have those people there? Like say you don't have them. Nobody's answering." And she's kind of like, "Well, just wait till the next person picks up the phone." And I'm like, "Okay, but," and then she's like, "Well, you need to process it, right? You need to process it." So I'm kind of hearing her say, "Tell me what you need to do," but I'm kind of asking her, "But what do you do?" You
Right.
know?
Right.
And she kind of made it sound like trust was an issue for her,
Hmm.
in safety with who she talks to,
Yes.
because she wants to make sure that that person's not going to go and tell other people.
Mm.
And I said, well, maybe a professional would be good because they're guaranteed to keep everything confidential. And you don't have to feel like you're burdening or worrying about who you're having to trust. And so I said, maybe it's a little bit of the old school mindset too, that we don't need professionals, right? Those are people
Right.
who have like mental issues.
Hmm.
So do you agree with that,
Stigma.
with all the mental health and, like this becoming more acceptable for younger generation, but less of the mindset of the older?
It's become more accessible for the younger generation, yet they're just filling them up with pills instead of doing something about it. This
Mm.
is what I'm seeing.
I'm glad that you're saying that because I was starting to feel like talking about that. But again, this is like any topic, right? But I
Hmm.
know that there's so many people on medication that sometimes I feel like people don't want to necessarily admit that maybe they fell into that trap
Hmm.
of
Right.
medication because at the time they probably needed it and they trusted their doctor and they thought that was the right thing to do. And
Yes.
then they're kind of like vaccinations, you know? Hey, it's the right
Hmm.
thing to do. Get vaccinated. And then after I'm hearing from these people, oh, I totally regret that. I just
Right.
felt like it was the right thing to do at the time. And
Hmm.
so we don't want people to feel like they're in regret mode if that's the case for them.
Right.
However, hopefully this is like an eye-opening experience for you to maybe change what you can change and accept what you can't.
Yes. And again, it comes back to self-responsibility,
Mhm.
self-accountability. What do you want? Okay, you trusted that doctor to give you those meds. Do you still need them? Do you still feel like you need them? What would happen if you stop them?
Yeah.
You
And
know?
I actually know of people who are anti-medication because, again, they think that that's only for people with mental health issues, and people that have mental health issues are, supposed to be in the hospital, the crazy people, right?
Right.
So, I'm strong enough. I don't need medication. Oh, so you're just going to suffer every day? I get the alternative medicine. I make all this herbal stuff.
Yes.
I help people develop tools, but it's also, I feel like, do as much as you can. This is my idea. Do as much as you can in the natural world before you need medication. Develop as many skills and tools as you can. And when you actually need the medication, you'll be more prepared to get off of it. Maybe your body's already in more of a state of healing, you know?
I agree.
Yeah, but like I don't think there's one way or the other, but it's also like you said, being a little bit more accountable for what you're putting into your body. And so
Yes.
there's no right or wrong, but definitely know your side effects, know your body, check in with your body, like write down how you're feeling that day, journal,
Hmm.
and then you
Yeah.
can measure it a little bit better. Maybe it's your food that's causing your sadness.
Maybe it's the people around you.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm glad
You know?
I'm glad we're talking about this because we're covering all the different aspects of it. I actually just looked up about grief research, and they've identified that grief reactions that are common in acute grief and it's been placed in four general categories: feelings, physical sensations, cognitions, and behaviors. They're
Mm.
all are considered normal, whatever normal is,
Yes.
unless they continue over a very long period of time or are especially intense.
Well,
So what are your thoughts on long for a long period of time or especially intense with any of those things?
well, what is a long period of time?
Right.
Like for somebody, 2 years could be a long time, you know? For somebody else, 10 years could be a long time. I
Yeah.
know that we all process things differently, yet is it affecting your day-to-day life? Is it affecting your life? Is it affecting yourself? Is it affecting your family, your job? Like, is it affecting everything?
Yeah.
Well, is that how you want to keep going? It
Yeah.
is, you know?
I think that's really amazing advice. I think you hit it right there. It's no different than any other thing that you're
No?
going through in your life. How severe is this in the grand scheme of things? Like you
Mhm.
said, is this situation ruining your relationships? Are you losing your best friends? Are you losing access to your hygiene? Did you drop out of school? Like, are all the things
Right.
in your life dwindling away? Like, this is
Mhm.
depression, right? This isn't
Right.
this isn't like something you're grieving. Honey, you in a depression.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think sometimes we can pop in and out of that. Do you
I
agree?
agree. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think we'll have like actually, the person I was interviewing before this, she said, my mom passed away however many years ago. And, I'm going through all these difficult things right now. And I went to pick up the phone to call her, and she's dead. And so, I think in those moments, we kind of get sad again.
Yeah.
So I think, there are times where you could be really up and then really down, and it doesn't mean that you're bipolar. That's kind of like, I think that just comes with grief. It comes in waves.
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
But if you're consistently sad,
Hmm.
If we're consistently, like you said, it's kind of ruining all these different good things that you have in your life. It's kind of up to the people that are around you that love you to tell you, hey, like I think you might need some help, you know? Is it our job to recognize that we have a problem, or is it also a little bit of like social responsibility of the family? Do you know how to answer that?
I know for myself, whenever I've had an intervention, it didn't go well.
Okay. For you or for them?
For me, like
Okay.
I'm the I'm the type of person, don't tell me what to do. So,
Hmm.
and then afterwards, like I see where they're coming from. It's just at that time, I just don't want to accept it.
Okay.
It
Yeah.
just takes a little bit,
So
but
don't you think?
it depends on the person. I mean, I would definitely tell somebody, that's close to me, how can I help you? I see that, you kind of look lost and your hygiene is deteriorating. How can
Yeah.
I help you?
Honey,
You need a shower.
honey, you stink. You're right. It's not easy to tell people. I think it's harder when you love somebody
Yes.
to tell them than it is when you don't love them.
Yes.
And usually those are the ones I find that if you're finally building up the courage to tell somebody, hey, I think you need help,
Hmm.
um, chances are, I don't know, I feel like you waited too long to tell that person anyway. If you
Yes.
feel like you need to have a conversation with them, it should just be something like that gets talked about when you see these things going on. That's how I feel
Hmm.
would be best beneficial to help someone who's grieving. Like you said, hey, like let's go out to the beach. Like we don't need to talk about it. Let's just get
Yeah.
some air, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
Not everybody's receptive to what you're seeing.
yeah, and put them in the driver's seat, put them
Yeah.
in control. Would you like to come with me? Not get
Right.
dressed, you stink.
Right.
So it's gentle, caring, supportive, kind people when we're going through, I think, difficult times. And
Yeah,
treat yourself the way you want somebody else to treat you as well.
I agree.
So I pulled up a card here. I was saying I wanted to either do some theta healing or some type of something helpful for people when they listen to this. So I just actually pulled up one card, just maybe to kind of sum up anything that we talked about or that might be an extra tip, yada yada. So I pulled up a tarot angel card and it says Six of Earth, gifts of money, time, or effort, new career opportunities, receiving a loan or paying off debts. Does that mean anything to you, Tina?
Say it again.
Gifts of money,
Mhm.
time, or effort, new career opportunities, receiving a loan, or paying off debts.
All I hear is abundance.
Ah, like that.
Abundance, abundance, abundance. Like whether you go outside, there's an abundance of air, there's an abundance of grass, like I'm looking outside right now, there's abundance of vehicles in my driveway. I see the clouds in the sky, I see the trees. There's an abundance everywhere around us. Hmm. I'm getting
Mm.
love as well.
And I'm getting that it's free. Love is
Yes, it
free.
is. It is.
Yes. And gratitude,
Mm-hmm.
you know, maybe it's doing some gratitude exercises, even if you have to, like, if it's one thing that day to be grateful for, if that's so hard for you to do, find one thing,
Mm-hmm.
and when we hear a lot of complaining about, yeah, I don't have money for this, I don't have money for that, I can't pay for the grief counselor, I don't have money, so I have to go back to work. Like you said, the most important resources are free. Love,
Yeah.
fresh air, gratitude,
Yeah.
right?
Having somebody to talk to, like, that will not question you, that will not put you down, that will like just listen and love you. Like not make it right or wrong, just listen.
Yeah. Yeah. And obviously positivity comes through, right? We do have to get our mind clear. And so I like that
Yes.
you're mentioning nature because during the heavy winter times, we're more susceptible to grief because, well, we're attracting a lot more negativity because we tend to be at a lower vibration. A lot of people die before Christmas, November. It seems like it starts in November.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
we just go through this like winter death cycle.
Yeah,
So
we do.
a lot of death and rebirth. So we see spring as a time of people having babies, starting to have children, and the birds start chirping, right? Birds and the bees. So I almost feel like we're going through this shedding in the winter. And so I'm really happy that we were able to talk about this today. And so just maybe as a healthy reminder, if you can apply some of those tools that we were suggesting, and also reminding ourselves sometimes we just need to close the door on a chapter, right? And it's just getting the closure. And I also have a grief ceremony that I did a while back, and I'll also put that in the comments as well. So
I
that
have
might
one
be
too.
another good. So pop that in the comments as well, if you don't mind.
I'm wondering if it's public. If it isn't, I'll make it public and definitely share that.
Okay. And then that'll give some people some additional like side tools
Yes.
outside of just here's what you need to do kind of thing, right? Some
Mhm.
actual healing. And so just a little visualization of closing that door and acknowledging where the new beginning is so you can start slowly bringing that into your life, even if that's your spring is your new beginnings, right? Have
Yeah,
sometimes having something to look forward to that you can plan gives you that little bit of hope.
for
Um,
sure.
yeah, so I'm also going to put this underneath my Horseman Readings YouTube channel. So also I'll make sure Tina's information is in the Facebook as well as the YouTube channel and any links that we feel will be supportive. It doesn't have to be a grief ceremony, but related to the topic. If you have the winter blues or maybe ways to get your energy up, we'll also stick that in the description. And so Tina also has a YouTube channel, so we'll make sure at some point that gets up on there too.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Was there any last things you wanted to share before we run away? Anything about your information? What you want people to contact you? What type of healings you
Well, you can
offer?
find me anywhere. Like I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on YouTube, I'm on TikTok. Did I
Right.
miss one?
I have
There's
no
so
idea.
many.
I have no idea. I put everything under my link tree now. So it's like,
Okay,
here's my
perfect.
20 links so I don't have to say 20 things. So yeah, guys, just be supportive as well. Subscribe to Tina's YouTube channel as well as mine, if you don't mind. If you're going to be, of course, using the resources, just take the time to say a hello, say whatever you want to say, share your experiences. Let me know again if you liked or disliked this. And I'd love to do more podcasts. So if you want to be on my podcast, if you feel that you have something important to say, I feel like everybody does that is related to the healing arts or life experiences, just reach out to me at horsemanreadings@gmail.com. All
Perfect.
right, guys. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks for your time. Feel free to share this out with any friends that you feel like will be able to benefit, and we will see you next time. Bye for now.